All right, everyone. Welcome to another edition of the New Breed Podcast, the world's best podcast, talking about everything new with a U. I am one half of your hosting duo, Jay Horsecow. With me, I have my partner in crime, wearing a brand new 18 Vision shirt, the notorious TIM, Tim Anderson Jr. Tim, how's it going?
Great.
And my second question is, are you a little upset that we're missing Decibel Fest tonight at all or now? Oh, no, you hate 98% of humanity, so leaving the house for you is not really an option. All right, so for this episode, we have a repeat guest. Their new album is coming out October 13th, so we had them back on to talk about it. We have the band 13, Zeke and Ivar. Gentlemen, thank you once again for joining us. So for our fans, we are glad to have you. For our fans, Zeke and Ivar were nice enough to give Tim and I a pre-listen. So we have some actually stuff to talk about before the album comes out. And I think I speak for Tim and myself where we both, Tim, what's the best adjective we can use? Like speechless, right? We were both kind of speechless listening to it the first time through.
Yeah, I mean, I was listening to it in all until I pressed to come in here, and I can't get that Freak song out of my head. It's like, like the way you guys write choruses, man, they're super infectious. I love it, man.
Yeah. I as soon as Zeke sent it, I downloaded it. I said, Tim, did you see this? And he said, yeah, I saw it. I just haven't listened to it yet. And it literally, you can watch the timestamps on my message where it goes, I'm starting now. Oh my God. Holy shit. Like as it goes on, I'm just like, man, I'm like, you guys literally, and you're our guest, but we're not trying to, we're not going to inflate your ego if it wasn't well-deserved. Like you guys hit all the right notes. And I mean that in the cleanest, most pure way possible.
Thank you so much.
I actually did a couple of listens. You're not going to see it because of my background, but I have a bunch of notes. I actually went song by song, and yeah, Tim and I are both like completely floored. Like one of the things Jordan Sloan always says is it can't just be new metal. It can't just be a sound. It can't just be an image. It can't just be an aesthetic. You need to have good songs, and you guys literally have good songs. And when we go through some of the tracks, I'm going to talk about, if I was your A&R guy, I would have picked 4 of them to be lead-off singles, and I would have done all different choices. But let's talk, before we go into the album itself, let's talk a little bit about how it came to be. So Zeke, I'm going to start with you, right? Like, I know you do a lot of the lion's share of the writing and stuff. Where did all this come from? Is this just a natural continuation of some of the stuff you've done previously, or influences? Let's talk about that.
So after I finished The Blood on the Wall, I was getting, I was watching a lot more politics on like YouTube and shit. And
I never wanted.
Yeah, exactly. I never wanted to make 13 like a super political band, but I do have some things to say that I don't necessarily want to dedicate a whole bunch of effort into saying. So I'm just writing it into the music instead. Very lightly. Like I'm trying to be as subtle as possible with it, but honestly, a lot of this shit, I feel like people will pick up what I'm putting down, because this was me complaining about the political climate in 2015, 2016, and we're here now in 2021, and I'm listening back to some of these songs I wrote 5-6 years ago, and going like, holy shit, like I thought this made sense back then, but now like
extra resonant. Yeah.
Just like, man, I didn't expect these to age so well, and I'm kind of terrified by it. Yeah,
it's super wild that you write this 5 years ago, and it's like the sound of it is like, I mean,
totally
coming out
current.
now. Yeah, it sounds fucking amazing. Like with the whole new revival, like I listened to the record, I'm like, this is what was missing when new was going away. It was missing bands like this. That right, because I think, and I tell Jay this all the time, even off camera, like if your band can't write a chorus, you shouldn't write at all. And like the choruses you guys write are just, they stay with you throughout the day, man. And I think that's fucking special, man.
Very earworm friendly, right?
Yeah.
Which is not something you can do intentionally. It just has to come out, it just has to come out organically. But yeah, a lot of these, every time I go to the garage, I say to myself, chainsaw, and I start singing to myself. And my wife's like, what are you talking about? Like, it's just a song. Just leave me alone. But no, this is, I mean, I mean, so you start off the lead off single was the single that's been released already, right? It was Creep Show, which is brilliant. But I honestly think there are multiple. I honestly think while that's a brilliant song, it doesn't quite capture everything that's on the album because you guys go all over the place. Like you literally go all over the place. So, I mean, that song is brilliant. That's out now by the time this episode comes out, so everybody can take a listen. But let's start with Freak, Tim, right? Like you texted me, 40 minutes before this interview started, and he literally said he wrote the chorus line, and then he goes, "God damn, these guys write catchy riffs." And then I'm reading it in your voice. And I'm hearing the song, and then I'm watching TV, and the wife's like, "You're not paying attention?" And I'm like, "No, I'm not really paying attention. I have this song playing in my head. Give me 30 seconds, then I'll just." But no, it really, really super catchy.
Thank you.
Yeah, the layering in some of the parts, man, is just brilliant shit to me. Like, I don't know what you guys do in the studio, but the way you layer stuff is just, I think that's why you guys are such a special band, because it's like a lot of bands don't really pay attention to like atmosphere and stuff, and I think you guys put it in there perfectly. Because I think new metal right now needs atmosphere. I think a lot of people depend on like putting like the scratches in and that kind of stuff, but I think nowadays you're gonna catch more ears when you have ambience and layering and atmosphere and stuff.
I'm looking at my notes, and the word I had for the song "Freak" was in quotes, and it said "flourish," and I think that's probably a fair adjective, because, like Tim said, there's a lot of layering, but doesn't come off like studio trickery. You know what I mean? Like sometimes you hear bands like, I love System of a Down, I do, and somewhere Adam Easterling's ears just started itching, but like they layer the guitar so far on top of one another that that'll never sound the same live. Right, because it's the same one guitar layered 8 ways, whereas you guys have all this. It's a very full soundscape, but it's not overwhelming in the sense of, you're like, okay, like Tim said, the scratches just for the scratches, and we need a DJ, we need to put some DJ shit in here, right? Like it all kind of fits.
Yeah, it's all got to service what the song is trying to be in the given moment. Like I can put in like electronic noises and stuff, but it's gotta service something,
Is there like not to cut you off, I'm sorry, but like what tuning is the record in?
Drop A throughout.
Okay.
Although on the last track, one of the strings is tuned a full step down, but just for that song.
Is it drop A on like a baritone, or are you doing it on a 7?
It's on a 7.
Oh, okay. So that makes more sense now. Because you can do like the crazier chords when you have the extra string, and I think when you do the choruses, maybe I'm wrong, just coming as being a guitar player that plays mostly 7, like you can make that layering sound if you know how to do certain chords, and I think you guys have figured that out.
Yeah, I get really Deftonesy with it when I'm like coming up with chords and stuff like that,
So
just adding an extra finger, sometimes you get that like dissonant sound. And I love that shit, man.
Yeah.
So when we look at this body of songs, which one was the one you wrote first? Do you remember?
Let me pull up the track list real quick so I can remember.
Jay manages to put someone on the spot every episode. I love it.
and I kind of think, I'm like, I feel kind of bad. Like I always end up nuking somebody. Where who do you want to open, and who do you want to open for you? And I forgot who I got, but they gave me a blank stare, and I was like, oh shit, Tim's gonna have to cut like 70 seconds of dead air out of this episode.
I'll tell you what, though, while you're looking for that, I can't believe how long the record is. Like, so sometimes my first couple listens, I think the song ended, and I'm like, oh wait, it's back. Like, holy shit, man.
Yeah. I do a lot more like intros and outros of songs on this one than I did before. This is also because I think I mentioned before, like the last 4 albums we did are part of one story, and then this is chapter 5, part of the next like self-contained story. So yeah, and then I think the next album is going to be part of that same story, and then we start something new on the 7th. Yeah.
Okay.
Hey, well, let me guess, you already have both of them written.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Definitely.
I was just making a joke, but I can't believe that, dude.
Tim,
Dude, like I keep saying this too, like the output, that's amazing to me, especially like if you work like a full-time job and you have kids and like a partner. It's like, how do you come up with this time? Like, what are you guys doing?
they don't sleep. They don't sleep.
Yeah. Just fucking do it.
I mean, like it's
dedication, really.
Yeah. It's like I know a lot of people are like say that to me about like podcasts, and I'm like, yeah, but we just sit here and talk. Like you musicians have to like grind it out, man. It's impressive, man.
Yeah. Big difference sitting in your basement staring at a webcam versus like literally sitting there with an instrument trying to record something.
Yeah.
I mean, I will say like I looked through my notes, and one of the things I picked up on is it would be real easy, right? Especially we're in 2021 now, right? It'd be real easy to say, okay, this band is our primary influence, and we're going to pull a lot from there. None of these songs actually sit in like the Korn groove or sit in the Slipknot groove. Like there's no clear, I guess the way I'm trying to say is there's no lazy classification for any of the songs on the album for me. Like, cause I was writing notes and like for Freak, I actually wrote down you out new metal. I was like, you guys out new metal, right? Like you grabbed all the things that are colloquially part of the sound, but you put it together in a way that it is new and it's enjoyable. And you're not sitting there going, oh, there's the Korn part. Oh, there's the Linkin Park part, right? It all came together. Like that was one of my notes. I made myself laugh. The Skin Eater. I heard some slight late Marilyn Manson in some of those parts, like some of the vocals. I was like, okay, I can hear a little bit maybe in that tinge. I don't want to go too fast because we're going to have the episode on like 10 minutes, but like Contorted, right? I love the fact that the bass is so high up in the mix. Like I'm a big get the back line up in the sound, right? Yeah. And you can't do that every album. You can't do that every song because then you sound like either Infectious Grooves or the Chili Peppers, right? Because it'd be real easy to put the bass real high in the mix, like, yeah, Flea, get off the fucking track. But it works. And I'm going to be honest, when you sent us the album, Zeke, I was having a day and I was having a moment. And I got in the car and I was listening at my desk and then I was listening in the car and Sad Clown came on. And I think it got a little dusty in the car. I think it got a little dusty because I definitely, this I think is probably my favorite song on the album. Right? I think that is absolutely brilliant and beautiful. And for an aggressive milieu, right? You really don't really hear the word beautiful tied to this type of music, but nah, sorry for me. This one nails it. And then I have like, I'm flipping around and there's one song here where I put, The Stitch. My only note here is holy fucking heavy Batman. Like that's all I wrote down. But I mean, that's like, excuse me. That's like, that was one of the more aggressive songs. But then you have like stuff like Sad Clown. And then you have stuff like, where is it? Involuntary, which was, I think, another one of the stronger tracks on the album. And I'm like, it's not all aggressive, but it's not all like kind of mellow. It's you're covering a lot of ground without being frenetic. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
I try to think of like how ambitious we are to cover all these different sounds in the span of one record. I think of it like, imagine a band as ambitious as Limp Bizkit, but without the cringy frontman, like a band that could be as taken seriously as like Hybrid Theory era Linkin Park, because like that album practically redefined rock music for the beginning of a new millennia. And I want to have that kind of influence, at least a piece of it. Like I know I can't reach that far up there, but I'm trying to see how close to that I can get. So yeah.
Awesome.
I was going to ask if you were listening to a lot of Coal Chamber when you wrote this record, because
absolutely.
And I'm glad that you said absolutely, because there's parts of this record where I'm like, he has to be a huge Coal Chamber fan.
Yeah.
Because I can hear throughout here, and I fucking love Coal Chamber.
Yeah. They've been a huge influence on me since the very beginning. Like, one of the bands that really inspired me to actually do this.
Yeah, I mean, some of the vocal parts in here are just straight up Dez. I mean, I love it. to get the bass parts, some of the bass stuff, and then the layering over it with the guitars. I'm like, dude, it has to be like a culture. And I agree with Jay about the bass thing, because like when Freak comes in and it just has the bass right out in front. I that's why I love that song. It's great. Great job on that, seriously. Because like Jay said, there's a lot of bands that just leave it in the background and you don't hear it.
And that's like nobody. I mean, Jason Newsted jokes aside, right? I mean, I love the bass guitar because I think it's a very relevant, important part of a band, and yet typically it does get like relegated to like get on the back of the bus. You know what I mean? And I don't think that's it's really maligns that unique space that they fill tonally. Let me ask you this, Zeke: what were any of these songs more difficult to put together? Like, were there any where you kind of were like, the arrangement on this, I'm kind of going back and forth, back to the drawing board, back to the drawing board. Were there any that kind of just stymied you for a bit?
Yeah, actually, this album was, I think, the first one where I was like, I was stumped at one point and I got frustrated, and then I went to work. I worked at like Pizza Hut. I was washing dishes or something, and I was listening to it over and over again. And I was like, what the fuck is it missing? You know, like I couldn't figure it out. I think Freak was one of the songs that was like that. Definitely that one. I think Involuntary, that one was definitely like that. Yeah, this wasn't the easiest album to write and record, but so far I think this is the one I'm the most proud of, you know?
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, after listening to all your records, just to me, this is your best record. I mean,
and they're all good, but this is definitely when you look at the last one and then here, this is a step. Like this is a step way above in a step in the right direction. Not to say that the previous were missteps, but you can tell that there's, I guess I hate to use this word because it's so played out, but like a maturity that has come, right? Like where you've gone from like here to here, like you've raised the bar. I mean, it's funny you mentioned you kind of struggle with Involuntary because I said my note here says radio single. Somebody call Jose at Sirius XM, because I really do think like you hit all the right, like there's an aggressive part. There's a more I don't want to say honest is the word that comes to me. Like there's an honest, almost like a ringing clear part. And when you put all that together, it really does turn into a radio single, right? This is the stuff that back in the late aughts would typically have been on the radio. Now they just love pop stars and that Billie Eilish character, whatever the hell that thing is.
Yeah. I looked at a lot of the bands that were like popular in the mainstream back then, and I just wanted to make something that combined like what they were doing with writing their songs and bring in that like authenticity, that honesty that you can only really get from metal, and see if I could create something that is just fun to listen to, you know, because that's always my number one goal, is that it's got to be fun to listen to. And you know, sometimes we do like super heavy shit, sometimes we do the softer shit, and the softer shit is really just there to like, you know, let you catch some steam before you get back into the fucking brutal shit. But you know, this band is also, you know, a constant evolution. Like how the last 4 albums was like finding our identity within the sound we're trying to create, and then this one is just like solidifying that identity. Like if I were to point in a textbook what 13 sounds like, I would point to this album. And hopefully the next album can you know, turn some heads, because I'm gonna be trying some cool shit that we haven't done yet. And honestly, it's only gonna get probably more weird and wild from there. We're gonna be trying a whole bunch of different stuff every album. So
one thing I really like about 13 is a lot of bands nowadays, they force in a lot of like mosh parts and the breakdowns, and they force in the alarm clock chords and all that stuff, even in new metal nowadays. Like, I don't know why. I think people heard Disembodied for the first time last year, and they just think they should throw them riffs in at all times.
Code Orange and Knocked Loose, right? Everybody found Code Orange, they found Knocked Loose, they found Disembodied. It's like, oh, we should do this. And it's like,
and I think a lot of guitar players, like, no slight on anyone, because I'm not the greatest guitar player. I mean, I can fucking rip though, but like I think a lot of guitar players just don't know how to throw that stuff incorrectly, and they just overdo it and overdo it. And one good thing I like about you guys is there's no forced mosh parts. You could tell you're not forcing in something just for a reaction.
Yeah.
And that's what makes the band really good to me, because you just write from the heart and that's it. You get what you're getting. Like I just can't picture you guys being like, we have to write a huge mosh part right now. You don't need it at all.
At this point, everybody in the camo shorts, they're going to go nuts. We want everybody to go nuts.
Yeah, I mean, you don't need it at all. And bands like Zone Zero, I think bands like you guys and Zone Zero, you guys rely on the effort that's put into the choruses and the bridges and stuff, because I think that's where the most pure shit comes from.
Yeah.
So I seriously applaud that, man. Like, it's
Thank you.
We write for like live performance.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I think writing for people to sing along with instead of banging their head and punching each other in the face is way better to me.
It takes more skill.
Yeah,
right? Like,
I mean,
we Tim and I were just having this conversation about like tough guy hardcore, where it on its surface you look at it, you go, oh Christ, anybody can write these hate breed riffs, right? 011001101, right? You know, but when it's done poorly, you're like, God, like what is this? So it's not as easy as you'd think. And to your point, Tim, writing shit that people can sing along to is not fucking easy. Like getting a hook, it's not easy. Ivar, let me ask you this. What are some of the songs that stand out to you on the album? What are some of the ones that you're like, yeah, this is a fucking banger. I can't wait to get in front of people with this one.
One of the ones that I feel like people are going to be surprised to hear is Contorted. That one, to play on bass, I really enjoy playing that song. I just, as a musician. So Contorted, I feel like is a different side of the coin. You know, I really fucking like, let's see, let me think for a second. It All Falls Apart.
Yeah.
It All Falls Apart. That's going to be a banger, dude. That to me, that just sounds like war.
Yeah.
I like to play paintball a lot. And to me, that just sounds like I'm just running through the fucking field, just screaming, just shooting like a crazy person, you know. It just reminds me of battle. I'm really into like Vikings and shit. So I like going into battle and just like fighting in a shield wall, you know, like that. Like if that song was playing at the moment of my death, like it would just be epic.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
The second half of the record, I mean, a lot of people fall off on that, but I think like the pacing in this record is perfect. And I think if you guys must have sat down and like figured out like what songs should go where, because I think a lot of bands also in nu metal, they put all the bangers in the front and then you get the fillers at the end. But like after Involuntary, the last four songs are fucking amazing.
Yeah. Right. This is definitely not a falls off on the B-side album, which is a lot of bands are guilty of that, right? It's just like the label filler. They wanted 11 songs. Here you go. No, this is, and actually I would think the second half, right? I mean, there's that monster breakdown in Unhappy where you can kind of, it's one of those, you can kind of see it coming and you're like, oh, here comes the breath. And then just start laughing. You're like, all right, let me break something. But there's that. And then there's Involuntary, which I think is a radio single. There's The Stitch, which is super, super aggressive. And then Scars, It All Falls Apart, and Dollface, right? Like it doesn't come down, right? There's no like release valve. It's basically just going this way. And then all of a sudden it's like, shit, the album's over. Shit, I'm going to listen to that again. Hit repeat. Let's go.
Yeah. You get like ballady songs. If you get what I'm saying, like what the hell song was Contorted to me? Like I wrote in my notes, like it's like a ballad for you guys.
Yeah.
I don't know if you think that, but to me, when I listened to it, I'm like, yeah, it's kind of like a ballad song.
It's kind of that's what I meant. Like it's a different side of the coin. Like
and I figured that's what you were trying to say. But then when you get to songs like Scars too, like that song, man. Like at first I was like, hey, a good song, but then as I listen more, I'm like, yeah, this might be my favorite song on the record.
They grow on you for sure.
Yeah,
that song. To answer a question earlier, I think that was actually the first song that I wrote. That ended up on this album, but when I wrote it initially, it was just going to be an acoustic song, and this was back when I was primarily in my touring metalcore band back in the 2000s, early 2010s. That was before I moved out to Texas and brought back 13. So
yeah, I mean, I'll tell you what though, the best song on the record for me is The Stitch. That chorus is fucking incredible. I mean, when you guys put the single out on YouTube, I was blown away.
Thank you.
I mean, amazing track, dude. Seriously.
Yeah.
I think
people. What's that?
Did you read the comment section?
The comments, I did, but I can't remember what it said.
They're all in Russian.
Oh, okay.
They're all in Russian.
Yeah. I still need to break out Google Translate and read all of them.
Yeah, I've read a lot of them, and it's just everyone's just like, Zeke, you have like helped me get through my breakup. Zeke, keep doing what you're doing. This chorus is fucking brutal. Like,
it's awesome. It's awesome.
Yeah,
and Russian, no less.
Yeah, we have a huge following in Russia. I have a couple of fans that have messaged the band that I still talk to this day. Just message every now and then, you know. And I enjoy talking to our fans. Like when they come to the table, or the ones here, local ones, like when they come to the table, if they have any questions about anything, like I'm more than happy to sit there and like answer whatever the fuck you want to know.
Yeah.
I wanted to go back to my Coal Chamber thing because in Skin Eater, I think it's where it's most prevalent in that song.
Yeah.
And I think in that song, the way you guys did the electronics, it definitely feels like something like you would hear in a freak show. Like you get all that background noise, and it's like it reminds me of when I watched like American Horror Story Freak Show. Like they had whoever did the sounds for that and the music they nailed it. Because and then in this record, like just the way you guys did that, I think it's the title for the record's perfectly the way it sounds. I mean, it's very eerie sounding at parts, and then your voice, like your voice, like you could do a lot of stuff with your voice, and it adds a lot to the music.
Yeah,
it's like how do you be that good of a singer, guitar player, and put these drums together? Like it's crazy to me, man. Like the amount of time you guys put in. It's again, I'm gonna say it's crazy to me. Like I wish I had the fortitude to do that.
I had a lot of practice. I went to school to learn audio production. I was in several bands, and I was always the guy writing all the songs and doing all the recordings in every band I was in. And you know, 13 is a project I've had since high school, and it didn't last long there because that was back at the tail end of nu metal. Like that was when that genre was fading out, and the newer sort of metal bands were coming in: Lamb of God, Killswitch Engage, As I Lay Dying, All Their Remains, those bands, Shadows Fall. And you know, side by side with that, we were getting like the emo bands, the screamo bands, and I was getting into everything. And you know, eventually co-fronted a screamo band for a year, started doing, you know, the metalcore project for several years after that, moved to Texas. Now we're here.
Yeah, be glad that you don't have a thing where I could personally hit you up, because I'd be like, what do you think of this mix right
here? Let me ask you this. Let me ask you guys this. Were there any songs that you're kind of surprised how they came out, in the sense of you kind of had it written and then you're recording it, and then at the end you're like, man, that came out much better than I was originally thinking? And were there any that surprised the both of you?
Definitely for me, but Ivar, you can go first if you have any.
I would say The Stitch. That one challenged me on some parts in the bass. And I was like, man, I don't know, you know, how this is gonna sound live. Like, cause I gotta play this shit. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
You know, it's one thing listening to it, but then like, you know, actually doing it while performing. Cause I'm not gonna just stand there and just look like a statue. You know, I gotta move and perform. So that one really surprised me. And just after practicing it, it's like, yeah, we can do it. You know, it just takes us that extra mile.
Dude, when I wanted to ask this before I forgot, because I didn't write it down, but I wanted to ask a little bit about the way the drums are done. Are you a drummer too? Like, can you play drums?
No, I suck at drums, but I can write drums.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Do you like study that kind of stuff? Like when you go and program that stuff, it's like I drum as well. So it's like I listen to it because I was playing along with some of the songs before on the record, just like warming up the other day, and I'm like, oh, I see what he did there with that roll, like the way you do that. Like, I'm like,
Yeah.
son of a bitch, that's hard to do.
Yeah,
So how are you getting that influence to know how to write them parts? Because if you're not really a drummer, it's kind of like a lot of people when they program drums, it's kind of like, I don't have 7 arms, so you kind of got to take a couple of them hits out. But like it's very fluent.
Yeah, I've been listening to music nonstop for so many years, and I pay attention to everything that's being played, the drums, the bass, the guitar, the keys, the vocals, all of this shit. Like I picture in my head how they do all of it, and then yeah, when it comes to writing drums, I mentally put myself at the drum throne, at the drum kit, and think to myself, okay, if I was a drummer on the level of, say, like Joey Jordison, the drummer from Mudvayne, the drummer from Cold Chamber, because these are drummers that I take, direct inspiration from, or the drummer from Suicide Silence even. And I'm like, what could they feasibly play? And I don't go out of my way to do extravagant shit every time, because, there's a time and a place for that. Sometimes you just need like a quick little fill that, carries the flow of the song. Yeah. Sometimes you need the song to cut, just have like a pause moment. And sometimes you need to fucking show off. One of the songs where I really tested that was on A Fallen Angel off of Asylum, because there's a part at the end where the entire song just devolves into noise, drums and all the drums and the guitars and all that is just playing different shit, just going fucking crazy. It like becomes a noise band. And like I had to program the drums doing all that shit, sounding like a legit drum solo. And I always count, like, at any given moment where a drum piece is hit, like how many hands are available to do the next thing, and yeah, I just calculate it that way. And I try to make the drums sound as human as possible, because I know oftentimes, drum samples are easy to pick up, and sometimes that's in the way that they're performed and written. Sometimes you can hear like, okay, it sounds kind of mechanical here, so it probably is like programmed drums, and I like to keep people guessing.
Yeah, it is not. I'm the non-drummer in the room, and it is not obvious that they're programmed. Like, because I was listening, and after you told us that the last time I listened to this album, and one of my later third or fourth listen, I said, let's pay attention to the drums. And I had headphones on, and I'm going, no, this sounds like a real drummer. Like I would if you hadn't said anything, I would have just assumed it's some dude in a kit. I would never have thought that it's programmed.
Oh yeah, I've had to use programmed drums for just about every project in the past. It's just sometimes it's easier to do than setting up your whole damn room and with the drum kit, with the mics on it, and get everything perfect level, and then your drummer fucks up a part and you have to do it over. Nah, man, that note goes there, that note goes there, that note goes there, play it back, sounds good.
That's why I bought an Elisa's kit. I ain't miking shit.
Yeah. I wish I had one of those.
Dude, it was very expensive, and I look at my debt or my credit card debt, and I'm like, Jesus Christ, but like it's so worth it. That thing's amazing.
Hell yeah.
It's just the way you can hook it into Superior and just trigger it from there. You can't get any better than that.
Yeah. And Superior is what I use, so
okay.
I keep I save patches for the drums that I use on every album, because I make sure I alter the sound of the drums for each album so they sound distinct from each other.
Very, very smart, because you hear a lot of the same samples in all the bands nowadays. It's like, oh, where'd you get that snare? Metal Foundry?
Is this drum kit from hell again? This is drum kit from hell again.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and it's like,
I still use all those too.
Well, yeah, yeah, but I think a lot of people just pull it up like, oh, what's Misha using? Oh, I'm just going to use what Misha uses, you know?
Yeah.
They just pull
the fact that
the
fact that you're consciously aware of it and you're trying to change sound with every album shows that like you're not like, you know, me, like I walk into the studio and Tim goes, oh shit, I got to program this guy's drums, that pull that. Okay, yeah, good, we're good, buddy, don't worry about it, you know. It becomes formulaic.
Yeah.
When I would record other bands in the past, because I used to run studios, I would have them take a video recording of all the parts that they play. Like they would just play it in the video, and then I would do my best to mock it up in the program drums, and any parts that they're like, you know, that's kind of weird, they can come over and be like, you know, fix this part, and then we get it all solid. And I don't know, I think it works out best in the end, because then you got, you know, good sounding drums. And you know, I've had to work with people that are like, no man, I have to track on my own kit, it has to be my kit, has to be on mics and shit, and then run the risk of the whole thing sounding off. You know,
don't you love that? It's like I gotta track on my own kit, but resample my kick, and it's like, well, what, why aren't we using your sound? And that's the shit that bothers me about that. Like, you want to play your own kit, but then you want to sample everything on there. It's like, oh, maybe you should just hit harder and, you know, be better at the song. Maybe you should
hit harder. That should go. That should go at the top of somebody's studio, right? Like Kurt Ballou should have that over the drum set. Maybe you should hit harder.
No, but I see what Zeke's saying. It's like, why go through the bullshit when you could just have the perfect sound there, and then the mixing, when mixing comes in, it's so much easier. It makes the record sound better. I mean.
Yeah, and also, and here's a technique that our friends in Aerith Dies uses, is they recorded their own samples of their drummer's kit. They made sure that they were, you know, good and they make sure that they're like good and tight, and that they're mixed really well, and then, you know, they put those samples in their sequencer, then they write the drum parts there, and they're still doing it based on what the drummer's actually playing. So you know, there are multiple ways to get the exact drum sounds that you want without having to like actually physically record your drum parts into microphones, into the mix. And some people want that more authentic sort of sound, you know, that's totally fine, go for it. I can't afford it, to be perfectly honest. Like I like just using my laptop.
And there's not one thing wrong with that. Even the bass parts, if you're using a plugin and it sounds great, who really cares?
Exactly.
I mean, what did you use for bass?
So no joke, I plugged the bass into the interface, and I ran the like the standard SansAmp pre thing.
What is it, Pro Tools?
Plugin thing. Yeah, I use the SansAmp plugin that comes with Pro Tools.
Yeah, okay.
And you know, I just dialed in a tone from there, and surprisingly it works really well for bass.
Yeah.
Especially Ivar's been doing this thing where he has the channels going like splitting two ways, and I used to do shit like that on previous albums.
You mean like you got like your DI channel, and then you got your like distorted channel?
Yeah, so it's a frequency splitter. So it takes your guitar signal and it splits the low end and the high end, and then it runs them parallel. And so I run the low end through a compressor, so I have a liquid laser beam low end. And then when I activate the high pass, it runs the distortion pedal, so I get more of the mids and the high ends, and it just runs them parallel, and then back into the cabinet. And the cabinet is just for the on stage monitor. I have an Ampeg, and so they just run the sound guy runs it from the back of my head to the board, and then so that's what comes out the speaker. But yeah, I have the SansAmp, the distortion pedal, and then that frequency splitter with the compressor.
Okay. Did you go the same route when you recorded it as well? Like, so, because I know when I do bass nowadays, it's like you're able to edit or you're able to EQ and compress just the highs and just the lows. I think it makes the sound more fuller because you're not really messing with the whole spectrum at once.
Yeah, I had recorded all the bass parts on the album before Ivar joined the band.
Okay.
But I think on this album when I did it, because usually I'll just do a left and a right channel and record the bass into both at the same time, and then I would put the tone over it, make it as crunchy as I possibly can because Fieldy is my favorite bass player, and yeah, I would put the compression on it, the EQ, and actually the inspiration for the way that the bass sounds and just the overall mix of the instruments together, the main instruments anyway. Since this was our 5th album, like I had the number 5 going in my head over and over, and I couldn't stop thinking about Point 5 The Great Chapter by Slipknot. So I was like, I'm gonna try to mimic the overall like the way that album sounds mixed. I was gonna try and mimic that mix. Oftentimes like I'll pick an album and see like if I can kind of get it to sound like it's coming from a similar place as this other album.
Is that like a thing you did with the guitars as well? You just did a left and right and just did it off of a plugin?
Yeah. Well, with guitars, I used Waves GTR.
Oh shit! Wow.
Yeah, I really like it. I put it on the monster amp setting, and I have a tape warmer that I put above that I actually borrowed from the school I went to for audio production, and then just EQ it, and there you go. You got rhythm guitars.
Wow. I'm so very surprised you said that because that's one of the plugins I just do not like. But hey, I mean, listen, man.
Hey, to each his own, right?
Yeah, people have, other, they just know how to work stuff sometimes. Like to me, like I'm a big Neural fan. A lot of people hate it,
Yeah. You think that's bad? I record all of the string instruments into a Line 6 GX pod interface. It has a single input, and you can't change the input volume, which I think is perfect because you get a neutral input that you can just alter in the box after it's in.
Yeah.
And with like that interface in conjunction with Waves GTR helped me like achieve the 13 guitar sound that you hear on the records.
Hey man, you don't have to have a $3,000 interface to sound good.
Yeah, this thing was like $60.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you don't have to have this special compressor or this special plugin to make it sound good. If you know what you're doing, it all comes together.
Yeah, I mostly started using it because I couldn't use Line 6 Pod Farm without it. Fucking dongles.
Yeah. I know, right? That's what I started with. I had a UX too. Same thing, man. Yeah.
Nice.
I'm always amazed when I see these guys like pull the giant pedal board out onto the stage. And I'm like, how do you know what the fuck is on and off? And like, don't you lose track? And then like, I mean, there's guys like Tosin Abasi, right? Who basically can get away with that shit, right? He literally looks like a bass drummer because he's standing on his heels with his feet just turning buttons on and off, right? Like there's something to be said about that. But like, you see these guys like in like a mosh band and he comes out with all these pedals and it's yo, do you really need anything more than an HM2? Like, do you really need anything more than that? Like, what are we doing here? What are we doing here, guy? Like, you're making things way too complex here.
Yeah.
Remind me when we're done. I'll tell you about a free VST amp thing that sounds absolutely fucking incredible. Remind me and I'll let you know. It's fucking great, man. Something you can just pull up as a plugin and it sounds incredible right away.
Hell yeah.
So let's go back to the album, Zeke. What's the plans once this comes out? You guys doing a release show? You guys doing a little bit of light touring? What's on the horizon here?
So first thing that's gonna happen is I think we're gonna be dropping another single on the 1st to kind of remind people this thing is less than 2 weeks away. Here's more shit to bounce to. and we're gonna do the album release show on the 13th at Come and Take It Live in Austin. We got some fresh new merch. In fact, we just got these in today, something new. Here's a hat.
That's great.
Yeah. I said I was getting political and I have an issue to pick.
That's fucking amazing, dude.
This style of hat has been through the gauntlet and not enough people care. You know, first Fred Durst and then Trump, they both ruined this thing. So
I
I'm gonna
did
try and
not
take it back.
I did not get that until like 10 seconds later, and then I'm like, oh, I got it now.
That's
awesome.
I have a red hat over there that right when Trump won, you know, I do agile coaching professionally, and I have a hat that says "Make Agile Great Again," and it's a red hat with white letters. And everybody that has always seen it has always laughed. And I thought to myself, right, like, I'm gonna wear this coming out of the fucking subway, and somebody's gonna think I'm a Trump supporter, and I'm gonna get like hit in the face with something, and I'm like, this probably isn't a good look. And then I left it on my desk at work, and somebody went into the office across from me, and they were like, "Did you see this guy out here has a MAGA hat on his desk?" And I'm like, "All right, that was a sign. I got to take it home. Somebody's gonna say shit. It's gonna get wild." But yeah, no, I love it. What's his name? Andy, was it Andy Williams from Every Time I Die has the red one that says "Make Hockey Violent Again." I'm like, I really do think that's great marketing, man. Take the thing and run with it. And then at that point, you dilute the offensiveness of what he was trying to do, because, you know, everybody's kind of ripped it off, you know?
Yeah, definitely. That's what I liked about the slogan we chose, "Fuck this hat," because if anyone sees you wearing this hat and they get offended, they'll be like, "Yo, I don't like your fucking hat." And I'm like, "Yeah, dude, fuck this hat. Am I right? This hat is stupid." And they're like, "Yeah, I agree." And then you're like, "Yeah, me too."
That's great.
I don't know. You get shawarma or something. Make a new friend.
So you guys are putting new merch up as a pre-order, or when is that coming out?
So we have right now we just have the CDs on pre-order, and then we've got some special shirts that I think we're debuting on the day of the show, unless we had pre-order plans. I'm not entirely remembering, but the hats, we only made 13 of these hats, and 3 of them are sticking with us, the band, but the other 10 will be available at the show. It's gonna be a lot of fun, a lot of cool new stuff to sell to people who want to support on metal. That's what it's all about here.
Now, can you before you sell all the shirts, let me and Jay know what they are, so we can just give you some money?
By the way, I love the fact every band we have on, Tim's like, "Yo, you guys got hoodies?" And the bands that we get on are always from the South where it's hot. Yeah. So they look at us like we're fucking crazy. Like, "Oh, you guys have hoodies and you guys are from Texas." And you're like, "What?" And then Tim says to the guys from Purity, "You know, AJ, you have hoodies?" And he's looking at him like, "Dude, we're in fucking Las Vegas. What are you talking about hoodies?" I'm like, "Tim, can we find we have a band coming up soon. We're going to interview that they're from Canada." I'm like, "If these guys don't have hoodies," like Tim is just giving it up, right? He's just giving it up.
That's about all.
Yeah, I did see that on Instagram the other day. Guys are making some more salsa. That's awesome.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. And we sold out of the Mosh Begone Molgoth soap that Igor makes and sells.
Awesome.
Yeah. Also, to answer your question, you wanted to see one of the new shirts. Here it is.
Oh, cool, dude. Yeah.
Yeah, that's sick.
Take my money.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. We'll have those at the merch table. We always have the standard 13 logo shirt, because sometimes all you need is just black shirt, white logo. I fucking love it. Yeah. So we always have those, and then these shirts, obviously designed for this particular album. We're also gonna have special shirts that you can only get if you come to the show. But we're gonna do a thing that we did on the 3rd album cycle, and unfortunately we couldn't pull it off with the 4th one because of the pandemic. But we started this thing where we would hide special edition shirts in the venue and give clues throughout the night where they might be.
That's awesome.
Yeah. We did it with 3 shirts for the 3rd album back in 2019. And I don't I don't remember if we were just gonna do 5 this time or if we were gonna do a bunch of them, but come to the show, enjoy the scavenger hunt, enjoy the merch, enjoy the creep show.
Yeah, is there like now when you guys play shows? I mean, I know you don't have the drummer there, and I seen someone bitching like, "Oh, you really shouldn't play live without a drummer," and you were just like, "Why? Like, why shouldn't we?"
Eat a dick.
Yeah, like why do you care if they don't have a drummer? Who cares?
Dude, we get that so much, man. Honestly, if you watch our live performance that we have on YouTube, if you see the audience, like they're having a dope ass time.
Yeah.
Personally, like when I get off stage, everyone is like, dude, I had the best time of my life tonight. You know, there's always that one guy that's like, where's the drummer?
Yeah.
And I'm like, so there was one time where a guy was like heckling during our show, and then when I got off stage, he asked me, he's like, "Can I audition for your band?"
Assholes.
Like, okay, so you're gonna heckle me, and then you think you have the audacity to ask me, "Hey, can I play in your band?" Fuck you.
That was his way of like being noticed in the crowd.
Yeah, but I'm not looking for that.
Exactly.
I hate
You fucked up your chances of even maybe you guys saying, you know what? Yeah, you can come check,
Yeah, if you wanted to be cool, you're like, hey man, I really like your music. It looks like you don't have a drummer. Do you need one? That would have been like, yeah, hey, here's my number. Hit me up.
To me, if a band has the balls to go on stage without a drummer, that just says,
yeah, I mean,
that's great.
Who gives a shit? I mean, didn't Agoraphobic Nosebleed? Don't they always play without a drummer? They never have a drummer on stage. It's always to a track. That band Here's from Philly, right? They play with a track. Who cares?
Doesn't Noel Nathrak do it too?
I think so. I mean, look, you see bands, their bassist can't make it on tour, so they play to a track, or their guitarist can't play it on tour. It's fucking 2021. Who cares?
Yeah,
right? Like,
when I seen that comment, I was just like, wow, like looking for attention here.
That's all it is.
Yeah, it's 2021. Everyone has balls behind the computer. It's like, fuck off.
Yeah. And I'm like, and you're the one on the computer. So like I'm on stage, you come up here and you do this shit and you let me know what you think.
Yeah. And it's like most of these people would try out and you would probably be like, nah, no thanks.
Like that guy, Tim, who didn't you tell me he racked his toms upside down? That's one of your best stories.
Yeah. We tried a drummer out. He had like 3 hi-hats. His tom, he was hitting the resonant heads instead of the beaters. And he kept telling me he had the songs down generally. I'm like, what the fuck does that even mean? Oh, I generally have the songs down. I'm like, no, you generally are just fucking terrible. And I picked them out. But like,
we've been there.
Yeah, we were in like a super like 200 BPM punk hardcore band. Like, you pretty much have to have skill to play that shit. I don't care what anyone says. Because when you go back, when you do fills at 200 BPMs and then go back into the beat, you kind of have to know how to play drums.
Yeah. Otherwise, you just sound like a fucking hatchet man, just butchering it in the back. And there's a band. I'll say it off air, but there's a band that is well respected in metal circles, and I saw them live once, and maybe the drummer just had too much to drink, but he was so sloppy and terrible. I was just sitting there like, ugh. Get these guys on the fucking stage. Yo, I know Dying Fetus is on this tour. Why don't you grab Trey Williams and see if he can come out? Just have him come out and play drums for this band, because this is kind of terrible, right? Like, and there's sloppy in like the Dave Lombardo way, where he doesn't nail every single note perfectly, and there's an organicness that comes with that, and that's what makes it so cool. Or like even Igor Cavallera, right? He is not. Like, he's not a machine. He was not a human metronome. And that's acceptable. But no, this guy was just slop. Like, his bass drum, I'm sitting there jumping on the bar, and I'm going, this guy can't even keep up with me. Like, what the fuck? Like, it was bad. It'll throw a performance off. You're smart going with the fucking track. If nobody likes it, eat a dick. You didn't have to pay.
Yeah.
So,
right.
I don't remember if I asked this last time. Now, with wearing the mask and stuff, has that always been an aesthetic of the band? Like, when you started, was that something that when you played live or through interviews like this, is that something that you always wanted to do? Like, keep your guys as like not hidden. I don't know the word. Jay would probably have the word I'm trying to say. Like, not that you're trying to hide, but like that's the aesthetic for you. Like, that's what you guys I can't even think of
So-
the word I'm trying to say.
When 13 started in high school, we didn't have the masks. We were just a band. But we
Okay.
were a band playing a lot of the songs that you hear on the first couple albums. And we played only like a handful of shows before we broke up, and me and a couple of the guys in the band reformed into the screamo band I mentioned earlier. And after I got out of my emo phase, because I was pissed off at a lot of the other kids in the scene, I met up with my friend Dylan, who's now the guitarist of Aerith Dies, and my friend Howard Black, who was on the Blood on the Wall on our track We Burn. And that song was actually from the project that the three of us did together called Butcher Cassidy and the Slam Dance Kids.
I like that. I like that.
Yeah. It was kind of, we wanted to be like a masked death metal rap band. We were taking influence from like ICP, Hollywood Undead, and Suicide Silence, fucking Carnifex,
Okay.
just brutal. Those like the pinnacle of all the types of music that were popular at the time, was like the emo rap and the fucking death metal, deathcore, fucking grindy, fucking blast beats and breakdowns and shit. We wanted to like not only mix them all together, but make it a big fuck you to the kids that are, taking part in, these genres of music and kind of fucking it up for everybody. Also, there was just a lot of drama between me and some of the other players in the scene at the time. I was in high school. I was a shitty kid, just like everybody else was back then.
Right.
Yeah, but during that time with Butcher Cassidy, I was making the mask, and originally this was just like the plain white that Joey Jordison used to wear like back on the self-titled. It started with that. I would just draw this design onto that, but over time I came up with this whole thing, and this is like 2 of those masks like sewn together, cut up, burnt, painted, shit like that.
Okay.
And a big reason why I started leaning into wearing a mask while performing on stage, aside from being huge into bands like Slipknot, Mushroom Head, fucking Mudvayne in their early years, all the shock rocky, change my face up type of bands. It was because when I was in Butcher Cassidy, I would go to shows, like me and Howard Black would go to shows wearing our get-ups and our masks. We would occasionally roll with this crew called the HFA, the Hidden Face Army. And they were just guys who would go to metal and rap shows in masks and have a good time, mosh around. It was really kind of liberating because like people aren't seeing my face and I'm rolling around on the fucking floor to this like thrash band that was visiting from Canada, and they were on like their first tour. They took a school bus from Canada to California just to play in this kind of shitty basement show.
Mm-hmm.
And we were just losing our fucking minds the whole time in the mask, and I felt like I could go harder that way.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely.
Yeah, especially I played in bands for a long time after that project fell apart, where I didn't have a mask, and I often felt like I was pushed to the back, and I didn't exactly feel like my face was all that photogenic while I was on stage playing guitar.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Yeah,
Well, it
that's
also-
how I feel about my face.
My mom always said you have a face for radio, but I mean but it also forces people to pay more attention to the music, right? Because you're not paying attention to the faces the singer is making, the faces the guitarist is making. You're paying more attention to the music because by adding the mask, you actually strip away the identity, and it's kind of more of just I don't want to use the word anonymity, but it adds the added layer, right? That you have to the music then becomes more resonant because you're not concentrating on the faces the guy's making on stage, right? Which if you've ever seen somebody who's been either boring on stage or to the point where they're doing too much and they're a little goofy, it does take away from the stage show. So if I'm forced to listen to the music, I'll be honest, I mean, Slipknot's been around for what, 20 fucking years, and there's some of those guys in that band. I could stand right next to them right now. They could come up to the front door and ask me for a bottle of water, and I wouldn't know who the fuck they are. Like,
Yeah.
ah.
I mean, that's a good story because when I went to see Mushroomhead in Ohio, I was sitting at a bar and all 9 of them were sitting next to me. I had no fucking clue. One of my favorite bands. It wasn't until Skinny turned to me and said something and bought me a shot. And I was like, I seen the tour laminate and I was like, oh shit. And he's like, yeah, I'm blah, blah, blah. I'm like, I've been sitting here for an hour. I had no clue I was sitting next to them dudes. It was super cool though. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
I love that about this. It allows you to like be more yourself, really. People ask like, oh, you're a character, you're acting like, you're trying to be somebody. And really, like before that moment before you go on stage when we're all kind of like arms over each other's shoulder, like huddled around, like there's really almost zero anxiety because like when I go on stage, I'm like a more true version of myself. And all those things that I'm worried about just kind of go away.
Yeah.
It's
funny you say that because I always remember playing shows when you could wear sunglasses and I always loved them because for some reason when I had the sunglasses on, I always felt like I played better for some reason.
Yeah. It's because like if you can work with a little bit of like just a tiny bit of anonymity. I mean, we see like people use their anonymity to be fucking insane on the internet in manners that they wouldn't be in real life.
Right.
Yeah.
So, just a tiny bit of that on stage and you can get more into the persona that you feel inside as you when you're up there, fucking shredding your instrument. It allows you to it's part of escapism, but it allows you to be more in tune with who you are as a musician. So I always feel like I'm more like myself when I wear this mask than when I don't have it every time.
Ivor just said, people said to you, oh, well, you're being a character. Well, the best music puts you in a state where you're not yourself, right? That's the best experience when it turns you into a more truer version of yourself.
Yeah.
For lack of a better philosophical reference, like that's really what good music and a good experience should do. So, I mean, you're just getting there faster than everybody else, right? Like the whole self-consciousness goes away, right?
But this isn't also about me. Like when I put the mask on, like it's the performance is the forefront of my mind. One of my very first bands I ever saw live was like Kiss and Eddie Van Halen. So I know those are not this genre, but just seeing that type of performance live really made a big impression on me. And it's like, I know that I just want to do like something similar, like for somebody else. Cause we had someone come to our show where it was their first metal show ever. And they were just like, after the show was over, they came up to me and they were just like, dude, I had no idea that this is what live metal music was like. Like I always thought it was just something else. Like I thought it was just brutal people punching each other.
Right.
And it was just like a big honor for me to have that moment of giving that experience to somebody else.
Yeah. All my life, I never thought that my music project would be someone else's first metal show.
Like, yeah, it's wild.
That is kind of wild.
Yeah.
It's cool too. I mean, because when you can, especially like if you can bring someone that really doesn't like metal into liking it just from your band.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like they come in and they see you guys on stage and they're like, oh, what's up with these guys wearing masks? But then at the end of the set, they're like buying all your merch, all your CDs. And then they're, you know what I mean? Like that's great because
that's
it's,
awesome.
You can bring someone that doesn't really have any, like at first, like, oh, I just listen to what's on the radio. And then they come in and then they fall in love with another genre, all because of what you guys did,
Yeah.
I mean, look at Slipknot. They're, I think, arguably the biggest metal band in the world, right?
Definitely.
Yeah.
I believe so, yeah. I mean, like, you could argue it's Metallica because they were, I think they were, like, the first metal band to, like, really make it to the fucking tippy fucking top of the mountain that was the mainstream back in that time. Like, there are plenty of other legendary metal bands, but they never quite, I believe Metallica was the first international
big metal band. Yeah.
And Slipknot, they worked fucking hard to get to that point, and they've been consistently up there the whole time. And like Metallica has its fan base, but it's all there's also that, you know, whole section of metal fandom that doesn't exactly look at them with the most positivity, whereas Slipknot, you know, no matter what hate they get, they're still up there, and their music is still undeniably fantastic. Like,
Yeah.
it's really hard to argue against.
Whenever they put something out, they make waves. And to the point,
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
to that point, I would even say that maybe them and Metallica are actually dead even, in the sense that they could do no album for a little bit. Either band, right, could disappear for 2-3 years. And then if they put something out, the diehards are going to come out of the woodwork. You're going to have new fans. You're going to have people who are like kind of into it, have heard the name, and then they dive in. So yeah, I think Slipknot's the top of the heap. I really do.
Yeah.
But my feelings on Metallica are probably a little bit weird because I just watched Some Kind of Monster for the first time, and I actually
I love that movie.
I
love watching it.
Oh, it was so painful. It was so painful.
It's such a behind the scenes train wreck of one of the most confusing albums of rock history. You know?
Yeah. No, you're right. I mean, if I can divorce my feelings from the band Metallica, right, which is the first heavy band I ever got into, right, it's a very fascinating behind the scenes look of what, you know, a band that you would think is on top of the world, with they're like an apex predator with no natural competition, and to watch them like bickering in the studio, like me and my wife who've been together for too long, like locked in the house for 2 years together. You know what I mean? Like it was kind of like, it's like watching your parents argue. It's like, you know, when you're a kid, it's terrifying, but as an adult, when you watch your parents yell at each other, it's like, really? What are you, fucking children? Come on now. So yeah.
I start to really feel for Kirk Hammett, who's like, you know, in the corner, like, Mom, Dad, stop fighting.
Yeah, literally. I just want to play my guitar, right? Like he's off doing his own thing. And I think James is way too far in his own head. That's where his problems come from, right? He spends too much time up here. I just think Lars is a dick. I just think Lars is a dick, right? And I'm like, yo, buddy, you can keep your double bass run on one. Yes, we all know. Yes, but he's an asshole. I'm going to sell these Basquiat paintings. It's like, you want me to feel fucking sorry for you? Like, really? You want me to feel sorry for you? Like, really? And but I mean, if anything, we should all be thanking Lars, because we wouldn't have things like SoulSeek or BitTorrent or any of that stuff if it weren't for Lars going after Napster. So Lars, if you're listening, come on the show, but thank you.
Has anyone ever gave you guys shit for wearing the mask? Like, it's fucking stupid.
Fuck yeah.
I'd imagine that. Yeah.
Oh, fuck yeah, dude. I get so much shit about it, and I really don't care.
Yeah, you shouldn't.
Yeah.
I really don't.
No, definitely not. Like, we get the Slipknot comparison all the time. Oftentimes it's complimentary, but sometimes people are like, you know, can't you get a gimmick that's your own? Yeah. And I'm like, this is the only mask of this kind that exists in the world, and I'm gonna fucking wear it. Like,
I would even argue it's not even a gimmick. If anything, Slipknot just established the idea that this is just another part of the performance, right? Like they introduced this as, I don't even want to say a prop, because it's not even a prop. It's just, that's part of the band's performance. Yeah. There should be a visual piece to it. And they were just the first one, let's be honest, they were the first band to be confident enough and say, we're going to fucking run with it. Mudvayne started, and then they said, we're going to go with the Alien Eyes, and they put out their second and third albums, which were terrible. Sorry, Tim, not sorry. Mushroomhead kept it, right? Like, I mean, it's just part of what the band is, and it's just like, well, okay, well, it is what it is.
One thing is, I like I'm me personally, when I'm not wearing it, who I am off stage, I'm just a normal person, really. I don't have much else interesting to really present to you. So when I am like in this I'm in this moment, you know, like I am, you know, this is more interesting to me. Like, you don't care who I really am. You just want to see me play this music.
Well, it's funny because like when we were done the first interview, me and Jay were like, we weren't expecting them to be in mask, and we thought it was cool because it's like, like when I jumped on, I was like, oh shit, okay.
I've said it. I was not expecting it. Then I signed in, and I was like, shit, I'm glad I came prepared. All right, well, here we go.
And I think it's cool that you guys do it in the interviews. I mean, why not? Fuck it.
Yeah, it also became like a great to promote the band, because when I had the mask for the first time and I was starting to bring 13 back up, I used to go to downtown 6th Street in Austin, just wearing the costume and the mask, just walking around, stare at some people, pose kind of funny, and people would walk up to me and just like try to get a picture with me, like all the time.
Yeah.
And at like in the early days that they used to like let me into the bars and just chill there. And as time went on, they started keeping me out of there because I guess I'm like disturbing people. And I sometimes I'll still just go out there into the street and just walk around. I mean, not so much anymore because the pandemic really fucked that area of the town up. So
Is it quiet now, or is it just nobody's out and around, or
The bad people are out.
oh, so the crime is
Joe
getting bad?
Rogan ruined it.
Yeah, there's been some shootings and stuff, unfortunately at our venues that we play at locally, and it's been unfortunate.
Yeah, a lot of
Yeah,
places
it's happening here too. I don't know if you saw that, Tim. Championship Bar in Trenton was shot up in a drive-by.
Yeah. It's
So I'm like,
you can't even go to a show anymore without getting shot at. It's crazy.
yeah, it's like, what the fuck is wrong with people? And then they moved the Body Snatcher Boundaries Left to Suffer tour. They moved it to Mechanicsburg, and I'm like, I am not driving all the way out that way. So I'm like, yeah, it was like 2 hours one way. I'm like,
I don't need to go to the Rust Belt to see a show.
that's like that's almost Pennsylvania, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
So a couple more things, and we'll let you guys get out of here. We don't want to take up your whole night. I just have a couple things. If a label approaches you guys, what do you say?
So there was a recent show we did with A Killer's Confession, and
okay.
During their set, because we played like one or two bands before they did, and during their set, he pulled out a piece of paper and wanted to address each of the bands that played that night, which I think is really cool. And he said some very kind words to us on stage in front of everybody who was there. I had a moment where I was pointing up at him and I was like, "Hey man, I'm doing what I'm doing because of you. Like, you helped inspire me to do this. So if you like my work, you can thank yourself as well."
Who's that? Is that Waylon?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Waylon Rivas.
Yeah. Great fucking singer, man.
He's a great
absolutely.
dude.
I miss him in Mushroomhead really bad.
Yeah.
He really brought a whole new dimension of vocal talent to that band, because he does shit that they never had before, and that they might kind of be missing now. I feel like they couldn't replace him, so they've had to like bridge the gap with the strongest points of like the kind of vocals Jeffrey would do and the kind of vocals that J-Man would do. So
yeah,
I don't know, totally off topic, but I feel like that latest Mushroomhead album is almost like a sequel to their 13 album.
Wow.
Yeah,
I think that's their best record. So
yeah, I agree.
13 is every song on there is good. I'll even jam the Seal cover. I don't even care.
Oh, I love that song.
Yeah, I mean, fuck it, it's good.
Yeah, but he approached us after the show and he was like, "We want to talk to you guys," and we had a couple of Zoom meetings. They wanted to grow us. We wanted to take the deal, but we weren't in a position where we felt like we could, because we did had to buy onto something. But
okay,
gotcha. And it's not like a weird thing, or like, I think it's just part of the industry. And we had a long talk and as a band, and decided that we don't necessarily think that we need to go the quote unquote standard path, through the industry that other bands have to do, get signed to the label, have them, fund your record deals, and you tour a lot, and you're kind of at the mercy of what the label and the management wants you to do.
Right.
And I like having full control over the creative side of the project.
You own your masters at the end of the day.
Yeah, I mean, nowadays, do you
Yeah.
really even need to sign to a label, right? Like, I would think you have way more leverage and control being, until someone comes along and makes you an absolutely insane offer that you can't refuse, right?
Right.
Where it's like,
Yeah.
shit, I can buy a house and put in a pool.
Let
You
me
know,
ask you a question.
like the what is it, Tim? The Il Nino guys, they got 500 grand, was it, for that first album? Something
Yeah.
like that. Like until somebody makes that offer, it's like, no, I'm just gonna keep doing my own thing because I'm doing fine as it is, you know?
I think
Yeah.
getting your name out there by yourself is even a more of an accomplishment than getting signed, honestly.
Yeah.
And plus, like, I'm not exactly trying to like get a massive following. You know, I like going to the mall and people not, you know, pulling me to the
Bothering
side.
you.
Yeah.
Yep.
Even though I feel like because of the mask, it would make that, you know, less likely to happen. But still, like, you know, I'm just trying to find my small pocket of people that, you know, just like this music, and I want to get to know them, you know, whoever they are. They're out there. They'll find us eventually.
Yeah.
And you know, it's like you said, we own our masters at the end of the day. I feel like involving the capitalist structure of the modern music industry right now would just take a lot away from what we're trying to do. Like we're hearing a lot about these days about how like albums are dead. You gotta basically put out singles every so often just to keep people interested. And you know, I'm not so concerned about you know being in someone's ear all day every day. I still want to do the albums every year, and I want to be one of the first and last bands to do what we're trying to do. You know, but maybe we won't be the last, but you know, the way the industry talks, you would think we would be. Like, who else is going to be releasing an album every year for 13 years, well into 2030?
Right.
Like,
Which are all already written.
we're already in the fucking the loop to make this happen. Like, if I turn back now, that's just going to be bullshit. So
Yeah.
you know.
I mean, and look, and when you're fucking 50, you can look back at that and be like, your body of work, like that's something to be proud of, you know?
Yeah, no shit. That's an accomplishment, right?
Yeah.
Huge accomplishment.
If by the end of it we're not rich and famous, like I won't care, because I said I was gonna do something huge and I fucking did it. And whether people recognize that as an accomplishment or not doesn't mean shit, because that's the goal I set for myself. I'm gonna be the person. I'm gonna be the one person who did this. That's my goal.
You know, you make up a good an interesting point, Zeke, when you talk about, like, you know, people say that albums are dead and it should just be singles from here on out, right? Not for nothing. If there's a band I really like, I'm one of the rare people. I'm like, no, I want 9 songs. I want 10 songs I can listen to nonstop, hit repeat, and go back and do it again. And I do think it's probably a mix, right? Where if you're in the studio or working on a new album for a year or so, okay, like, well, maybe you release a single here and there just to keep your name out there, right? And it doesn't even need to be like perfect. It could be rough tracks or B-sides or whatever. But I'm one of the people that I do enjoy, you know, 7, 8, 9, 10, 13 songs. Like that's to me that's where you have to sit down and listen. It's not just, you know, oh, somebody just hits it on Spotify, they listen to a song, the song is done, and they move on to something else on Spotify, and it was in one ear and out the other. You know, like I enjoy the challenge that an artist puts in front of you when they say, no, here's a body of work, you need to absorb this whole thing.
Right. And I feel like we have that freedom to do that without, you know, someone else telling us. For example, like a lot of our songs are 4 minutes plus. Like Dollface is, you know, 10 minutes.
10-minute song, yeah.
Yeah. So do you think that if we were signed to a label that we would have a 10-minute song as our very last song?
No. Some label mutant would come in and say, we got to cut this into like 3 separate songs. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. And that's not what got us to the dance.
Right.
They would call it not playlist friendly, which I get why they say that, but like, we're not the band that's trying to be friendly with all, you know, your algorithms and shit. You know, I don't want to sound like braggy, because it definitely don't mean that with saying this, but I feel like we're one of the last bands out here that's like really striving for the most authenticity. Because you know, you hear a lot of bands say that, and then they do all the same shit that the other bands do as far as like how they go about the, you know, their business model, and you know, the work that they're putting out sounds, you know, highly produced, like, you know, all the other stuff out there. I
Mhm.
like Bring Me the Horizon's current sound, but I don't need every fucking band to be trying to sound like them. You
Yeah.
know?
I mean,
Yeah.
me and Jay in the Slack group thing, we just had this conversation. Like how music is like, I think the entire genre of hardcore is the most boring fucking shit ever.
Oh, shots fired. Here we go.
Yeah.
I mean, not trying to be a dick. I'm just saying I used to love hardcore. I just think it's so goddamn stale. Like Jay will be like, because Jay loves hardcore. He'll be like, "You hear the new blah 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 record?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it fucking sucks. Sorry."
And I'm
I've
like,
heard it.
Jesus Christ, Tim.
I heard this record in 1992. I don't need to hear
Well,
it. again.
well, that's part of it too. Every riff that's going to be written has already been written. It's how you put them
Yeah.
together, how you arrange them is what makes it stand out.
Yeah,
And I mean, but
yeah,
yeah, right. And you know what? It's to me, sometimes hardcore is like a Michael Bay movie, right? In the
Yeah.
sense that sometimes you just want to put it on and turn this shit off and
You just want to hear some explosions.
yeah, just let your eyes and your ears just take in what's in front of you without questioning like the giant plot holes or like did that dude really just say like get up in that shit like bad lyrics? You don't know. Just turn your brain off and enjoy it. And the problem is when that turn your brain off, enjoy it stuff becomes so prevalent that that's what everybody's doing. It's like, Jesus, there's no like Tolstoy out here anymore, is there? It's all like Michael Bay explosions and Uwe Boll, right? Bowl movements.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And no, we don't need any more of that. We don't need more of that.
All right. Well, one more thing, and then we'll get out of here. Are you guys planning another cover record? Because the cover record is fucking phenomenal.
Definitely planning on more of them in the future. I'm trying to
Awesome.
figure out because I like to do like, you know, short EPs and, you know, other side works in between the main albums every year. And I definitely had plans to do Covered in Blood Part 2, maybe Part 3. And like an acoustic album, maybe a remix album. I don't know. We'll just try some shit. It also kind of has to coincide with you know, it being a good transition from one chapter to the next, because we did Covered in Blood and recorded it and distributed it and released it as fast as soon as we did, because it was immediately after the Blood on the Wall, and I kind of view the two albums as like brother and sister albums, you know, because yeah, that was where that thought ended. So
No, I got you. I'll tell you what though, that Static X cover, I like it better than the fucking original.
really,
I swear, dude, that cover is so good.
that is insane.
It was well live.
No, I'm not just saying that to blow smoke, dude. I asked
No,
Jay. I've told him
He's
dude,
ranted
I
about this quite a
love
few
that
times.
cover,
Yeah.
dude. I think it's just your voice, honestly. Just the way you did it. It's the recording is really good, because I think Machine kind of lacks on the recording, to tell you the truth.
they were still getting a feel for, you know, what they were trying to be like as far as the electronic element to the Static X sounds. They've always had that down, but it was just getting it to mix with the metal itself, especially in the mix of the records. Because I mean, when the number one band I can think of when I think of like a new metal era band that had like the front man was a guitarist and was always a guitarist also doing the lead vocals, I always think of Static X first. If there are others, like I don't know, they just don't pop up nearly as quickly.
No, I think it is just
James
Wayne
Hetfield.
Static. Like I'm thinking like Dez, no. Fred, no. Jonathan, no. Slipknot,
I mean, Metallica.
Disturbed. I mean, all those
you got
bands, all those
Metallica.
new metal bands. Yeah, Metallica. Yeah.
And
Yeah, but
Megadeth.
oh yeah, Megadeth. But I honestly think I like that better than the original. Plus, especially in the chorus, like whatever snare you use, it just makes it pop really good for me, and I really enjoy that.
I think the drum mix that I have on that song, because what I was talking about earlier, the way I like stylize each of the individual albums, I mix them apart from each other, and sometimes I make the cover songs, you know, as I'm recording those, and so you're getting mixes from all across the discography that not only just the stuff that we've released, but the stuff that we have demos for internally. So like Like for example, the on that song Cold, that the drum mix is from our album after Creep Show. So the album
Okay.
coming out next year. And
Ooh, okay.
like our Suicide Silence Destruction of a Statue cover. I plan on using the mix on that track for our 12th album, which I want to make heavier than everything we've done.
Shit. I love how
Basically,
you I love how you have 2029 planned out already.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Like,
Yeah.
shit, I don't even know what I'm supposed to do tomorrow when I get out of bed. My lord.
October
crazy.
13th, October 13th, 2029, we'll be releasing our 13th and final album. And if you look at the date 2029, it's 2 plus 0 plus 2 plus 9 equals 13.
Oh wow.
There you go.
If you look at the release year for all the albums, they're all like that.
It's meant to be.
Yeah, it
exactly.
definitely is serendipity.
Well,
That's
listen,
why you don't.
listen, I'll be here in 2029.
Yeah.
We'll be interviewing you for your last album. So
Well,
Hell
we'll
yeah.
talk then.
So, guys, taking us home. People want to find the new album. Where do they go? Merch, right? Where do they go? Where do they go looking?
So to pick up some merch from 13, we have a new Big Cartel store. It's 13unmetal.bigcartel.com, and that's XIIIUNMETAL.bigcartel.com.
all right.
Yeah.
Awesome.
We released the album October 13th. If you want to see us perform it live, like the entire new album live, you come and take it live in Austin, Texas on October 13th. We'll be there. We've also got Pigweed, Astriction, Scream at the Sky, Darker Than Fiction. Those two are actually on tour together, and the After Dark Society. This is going to be a huge fucking show. We got some other cool merch debuting that night. We also got a show at Purgatory Scream Park, more towards the end of October. Yeah, lot of cool stuff going on. I'm also moving in the midst of all of this, so
Jesus.
yeah.
Good luck.
Very stressful. On top of that, I just had to sell our cars and get a new one, so it's just been, the work has just been piling up.
Yep.
You know.
Yep, the world is kind of crazy right now. Awesome. Well, again, Zeke, Ivor, we want to thank you guys for coming on again. This has been awesome. We look forward to the next one in 2029, when hopefully I haven't thrown a heart attack by that point. Otherwise, Tim will have replaced me with a new co-host. But yeah, we look forward to having you on again. So on behalf of Tim and myself, I want to thank you guys both for coming on. On behalf of Ivor, Zeke, Tim, and myself, I want to thank all of you listeners for tuning in once again. If you like what you heard, newbreed_podcast on Twitter and Instagram, newbreedpodcast@gmail.com. We have a Facebook group. Tim kind of lost his mind the other day because somebody was posting something in reference to New Breed, the rapper. We are not a Christian rapper from the UK. Please keep that in mind. So once again, we want to thank everybody for tuning in again. We want to thank our guests. And until next time, this is the New Breed Podcast saying cheers.
Thank you.
Hey guys, thank you for having us.
Absolutely.